Jane Yolen was born in New York City, February 1939. Her father started out as a cafe journalist writing for New York newspapers, while her mother wrote short stories but wasn't very successful. After her brother Steve was born, her father went into the army as a second lieutenant and was shipped off to England in World War II. At about 13, Jane Yolen started writing a newspaper with her brother Steve for their apartment complex. They interviewed their neighbors and sold the newspapers for 5 cents each to the same neighbors that they interviewed. Jane Yolen was accepted into 3 different colleges after high school. She decided to go to Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. She graduated in 1960 and after college went back to New York City. She sold her first book on her 22nd birthday, and it was called Pirates in Petticoats. Jane Yolen married David Stemple in 1962. They have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Her husband died of cancer in 2006 after 44 years of marriage. She now lives in Western Massachusetts, close to her daughter, and owns a home in Scotland. Jane Yolen has won many awards, including the Caldecott Medal, 2 Nebula Awards, the Rissling, the World Fantasy Award, the Golden Kite Award, the Skylark Award, and the Jewish Book Award. Some of Jane Yolen's books include a variety of diverse topics, including the Holocaust and children with special needs. Unfortunately, after 25 years of making school visits, she has retired, but she does travel around the country doing conferences, storytelling, and book signings. She also states on her website, www.janeyolen.com, that she is willing to do conference calls or online chats with your students. If you're interested, her email is janeyolen@aol.com. Now we are going to listen to a short reading by Jane Yolen from her book, How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? Then listen to part of an interview with Jane Yolen, courtesy of readingrockets.org.
How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? By Jane Yolen. Illustrated by Mark Teague. How does a dinosaur say goodnight when Papa comes in to turn off the light? Does a dinosaur slam his tail and pout? Does he throw his teddy bear all about?
I was writing from the time I was in elementary school, but much of it was pretty terrible, and I love to recite my first poem to kids when I talk to them, because it was so bad that I tell them that clearly they're writing better poems than that, but you keep writing and working and working and writing, and you get better after a time. It's like any kind of muscle that you keep exercising. It gets bigger and better. I have over 250 books out. I know that sounds like a lot of books, but I remember writing them each one at a time. And there are picture books, and there are rhymed books, and there are alphabet books, and there are counting rhymes, and there are board books, and there are middle grade fiction, and there's nonfiction, and there's young adult fiction, and there are music books, and there are adult books, and there are pedagogical books, and there are books of essays, and there are books on how to write. And the only books that interest me right now are the books I'm working on. So I think that there are two problems with the way writing is done in schools. One is the assumption that you can give an assignment and anyone can then blurt out onto the page enough in a 20-minute period or a 15-minute period or a half hour, whatever the period is. I can't do that. So you give kids a topic and you give them a time, and within that topic and that time, you're saying, do something creative. And for most kids, that's enough to stop them right there. I would rather have kids have journals that they can take home and write on when they feel like it. Writing in a schoolroom under the teacher's eye is a horrible way to write. And I know very few professional writers who, under those conditions, could write anything worth anything. I've done a lot of professional storytelling. It's a very different kind of sharing of stories than it is writing a book or even reading a book to someone, because what's in the book might as well be written in stone. There it is. It doesn't change. When you're telling a story to an audience, you watch their face. You change what you're saying to fit the audience, or you incorporate something within the audience into the story as you're going. And so the story gets longer or shorter because of the audience. When you're writing, the story gets longer or shorter because of the story. It's a very different thing. I use the words that need to be used, and sometimes I have to fight for them. I did a series of books about a pig butler called Piggins, and in the first book he finds the diamond lavalier is missing, and my editor said, no kid will know what lavalier is. I said, then they'll learn it. And you know what happened? Every school that I went to that had been reading Piggins, the kid's favorite word was lavalier. So I think that you use the words that need to be used, and if they're big and the kids don't understand them, they'll either get it in context, or they'll ask someone, or they'll look it up. Kids who never hear good words, never get stretched by them, are not going to be word lovers. So, at least in our books, let's give them great words.